There's one big characteristic that does differentiate the malignant narcissist from the psychopath, and that characteristic is anxiety. Psychopaths, antisocial personality, sociopath, whatever term you use, we use antisocial personality in the field of psychology, but most people use those interchangeably. Psychopaths, antisocial personality types, don't feel anxiety most of the time. They don't feel fear most of the time. Fear of getting caught, fear of consequences. The first study I ever did as a graduate student, and it seemed kind of silly at the time, but one of my professors invited me to participate in this study with him. So it was the first time I was ever published. It involved the prison population. And when you do a clinical study, you have to set forth your hypothesis before you start. You can't get your data and then come in after the fact and decide what it meant. You have to say up front what you're going to try to prove and then see if your data supports it or not. And the theory was that those in prison have a higher body temperature than the general population. And you think, now, what the hell's that got to do with anything? Well, let me tell you what has to do with anything. Our theory was that those people that are in prison have a higher body temperature than the general population. The average peripheral skin temperature is about 91.6. Now, your body temperature is 98.6, but your peripheral skin temperature is about 91.6. And our hypothesis was that one of the signs that tells people that they're afraid, their autonomic nervous system reaction tells them they're afraid, is that you feel flush, right? Think about it. When you get scared or really aroused, you get flush. Your neck gets red and your cheeks get red and you kind of break out in a sweat and your peripheral skin temperature goes up. And so that tells people be afraid. So let's say you've got a young kid and his buddies say, hey, we're going to rob this liquor store down on the corner. And so he gets there and he gets in the parking lot. All of a sudden, he breaks out in a sweat and his face is all hot. His body's telling him, be afraid. There's something wrong here. There's threat here. His body temperature tells him, be afraid. Now, our theory was that people in prison have a higher body temperature, so they don't get that signal that they're already flush. They're already at a higher body temperature. And so when other people would ordinarily get the signal, they don't get the signal. And so our theory was that the prison population would have a higher peripheral skin temperature than everybody else, and therefore they wouldn't get the signal that they should be afraid. And we were right. They did have a higher peripheral skin temperature than the general population. Now, were we right in our interpretation of it or not, or did we just get lucky? I don't know. But I do know that research tells us that because psychopaths don't feel remorse, they don't feel sorry, so they don't fear doing something that they're going to feel bad about. They don't experience anxiety the way other people do. Because it's like, I don't care what happens. I don't have any empathy for anybody else. I don't care. That's not true about malignant narcissists. They do feel anxiety because whether it's classic, covert, malignant, or communal, at the core of the narcissist is a feeling of insecurity. What you're seeing in the narcissist is a false sense of superiority. That's why you can't do anything to help them, because they're too fragile. They can't take criticism. They can't listen to you because they're too afraid. So they're going to fight tooth and nail to maintain this superior veneer to dominate. That's why they simply can't be confronted. That's why you can't win an argument with them. They are relentless. They will argue till the end of the earth before they give a point. They won't give. They can't, because if they crack the veneer, their fear is they're going to come completely unraveled. And where does this come from? Look, there's a lot of theories about this in the literature. There does seem to be a genetic component that's possibly involved. There does seem to be a high incidence of a chaotic childhood. There does seem to be, turmoil and trauma in their lives that made them fearful and insecure. But listen, that doesn't matter. If somebody runs over your foot, why they ran over your foot doesn't make your foot feel any better. If it was an accident versus somebody doing it on purpose, it doesn't make the bones any less broken. It doesn't make the pain any less. So, do you really care why someone is a malignant narcissist? Yeah, maybe you do, but it doesn't have a functional difference in your life. You need to get away from these people as fast as you can safely do so.